And let's now move on to another one of our big stories this week. This is what happened in Libya this week. This, of course, is where the country is located on the map, and this is what large parts of the country looks like right now. There is death and devastation. The flood in Libya has killed at least 20,000 people. Here's the story.
Last week, Storm Daniel hit the Mediterranean. Greece was affected, as was Turkey and Bulgaria. Soon, the storm made its way to Libya, a country whose infrastructure was already damaged by decades of fighting. On the 10th of September, Daniel made a landfall on Libya. The storm brought strong winds of 70 to 89 kilometers per hour and heavy rains. There were flash floods in several cities, including Al-Baida. The rain overwhelmed two aging dams, Al-Bilad and Abu Mansour. Both of these dams broke. It is believed that around 30 million cubic meters of water were released. Enough to fill 12,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This water came gushing downstream. The port city of Derna was on its path. Most of its residents were asleep at that time. Before the dams collapsed, Derna was a city of 100,000 people. Today, reports claim 25% of the city has disappeared. Derna's beaches are littered with clothes, cars, toys, and household goods. The streets are muddy, and the sea is flooded with bodies of those who once lived in Derna.
This is the first time we see a true disaster happening, especially in Libya. We are waiting for the sea to calm down to be able to see the bodies that are visible to the eye and try to retrieve them.
It's hard to say how many people really died in these floods. Derna's mayor says the death toll could reach 20,000. One thing is for sure, the flood changed the lives of the city's surviving residents forever.
So whom do you blame for this tragedy? The rain or those responsible for maintaining the dam? The dams that gave way were built between 1973 and 1977 by Hidrotehnica and Hidroenergetica, a Yugoslav company that's currently based in Serbia. The dams were named Derna and Mansour. Derna was 75 meters tall, Mansour 45 meters. Capacity was about 18 million cubic meters of water and 1.5 million cubic meters respectively. Those dams had not been maintained since 2002. In 2007, a Turkish firm was contracted to work on the dam. But the company left Libya in 2011 when fighting broke out. Ever since then, these dams had become ticking time bombs. In 2022, one researcher wrote, and I quote, "Immediate measures must be taken for routine maintenance of the dams, because in the event of a big flood, the consequences will be disastrous for the residents of the valley and the city," unquote. Time for a quick recap. Until 2011, Libya was, of course, ruled by Muammar Gaddafi. He was in power for over 4 decades. The residents of Derna mostly opposed Gaddafi. The dictator, in return, neglected the city. Gaddafi was assassinated in 2011, a civil war followed, and in 2014, Libya was split between two rival administrations in the east and the west. But currently, Derna is controlled by the forces of powerful military commander Khalifa Haftar. He's allied with the rival government, the one not recognized by the United Nations. So you see how complicated all of this is, which is also what is making the inflow of aid into Derna so difficult. But by the way, it's not only Libya that aid is currently being rushed to, but also Morocco. That country is trying to limp back to normalcy after being hit by a devastating quake. Take a look.
It happened on Friday, the 8th of September. Late at night, the ground began shaking violently. Most of the people in Morocco's high Atlas Mountains had slept. Those who woke up on time managed to run out for their lives. The rest were pulled out of the rubble the next morning or in the days that followed. Many of them were dead. On the 8th of September, Morocco was hit by a 6.8 magnitude quake. The epicenter was in the high Atlas Mountains, around 70 kilometers from Marrakesh. The monster quake wiped out entire villages. Douzrou was home to 1,000 people. The houses here were built of stones and mud instead of concrete. These structures could not withstand the quake. Over 100 of Douzrou's 1,000 residents died. Ishmael survived the quake. He was working outside the village at the time of the disaster. Ishmael returned to Douzrou to bury his family.
My big brother, my sister-in-law, 2 children, and my aunt were killed in this house.
This village is damaged, that village there is damaged, and the entire border area is damaged.
The earthquake killed around 3,000 people. Some 3,000 others are injured. And there are thousands who have lost their homes. In the village of Amizmiz, some of the survivors are either living in yellow tents or are being forced to make do with blankets. The quake not only resulted in the loss of lives and property, but also significant cultural loss. This is the Timma Mosque. It is almost 9 centuries old. The United Nations lists this mosque as a potential World Heritage Site. This mosque is now completely destroyed. Several houses have also collapsed in Marrakesh. The old city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was first built by Yusuf ibn Tashufin in 1070. This is the Katoubia Mosque, the city's most prominent mosque. Its minaret is known as the roof of Marrakesh. It is visible from most parts of the city. Now this minaret has deep cracks. Cracks it may not survive. The priority is to ensure the well-being of the quake survivors.